So this is where my sleeves are at the moment. So they're quite short, but they're plenty wide enough for my arm. Now, once you've tried this on, for some people you might find that actually it fits you perfectly, or that's the length of sleeve that you want. Absolutely fine, you can just finish it off there. Or we can do, there's a few different ways we can now carry on. So we can either make this just completely longer, and then we can cuff it or leave it as it is, depending on your preference. We can attach a cuff here and make it like a balloon sleeve. So whether you make this longer at the same width that it is now, all you're going to do is attach your yarn here and just keep going round and making it longer. Or we can also taper it in. So I'm going to show you how to do each of these things if I can. So for making it longer, just attaching it and going round. I'm going to do that a bit for the tapering as well, so you'll see that in a moment if you're not sure how to attach. But I'm going to show you quickly how we could actually then bring this in for a balloon cuff. So I just find my yarn. So for attaching it, so if this was the width that we wanted, but we wanted to actually make this balloon sleeve and bring this in, we'd just be attaching, doing your slip knot. And you can just attach it into one of the spaces. So I've done a slip knot, and then I'm just going to slip stitch that on. And then what I do is, it's a way of kind of gathering this in. So I'd be then going round these stitches. So instead of going into the gaps, we're going to go into the stitches and do a series of decreasing to really help bring that in. So what we can do is go into the next one. We're actually going to do UK doubles. So it's a US single. So you're going to go into your stitch, yarn over and through, yarn over through 2, and then we're going to do 2 together. So into that one, yarn over and through, into the next one, yarn over and through. You end up with these 3 loops, yarn over through all 3, and then into the next one, and then 2 together. And we're going to do this all the way around. You may find that this is either too much or not enough, so you can repeat this, or you can just do 2 together all the way around. But the idea is just to really bring this in. So let's have a look what it looks like when I've done the first round. So if you keep doing that, and I'll show you how it looks, when I've got all the way around. Now you can see that I've done that all the way around, and yes, it has brought it in a little bit, but it's nowhere near enough for how I'd like it. So it's brought it in a little bit there. But that's ideal if you'd already got a tapered sleeve, or you know, if your sleeve was much thinner in the first place, then you'd only just need to do that around the tapered edge. So when we look at the tapered sleeve, that's what we'd do on the tapered one. For this, because it's such a wide sleeve, I really want to bring it in and make it balloon more. So in that case, I'm actually going to suggest that you go around now and do 3 together all the way around, and it will really dramatically pull that in. So to do that, we're just going to continue round. So that's where I joined it. So we're going to skip over the join. We're going to go into the next stitch and yarn over and through, into the one after, yarn over and through, and the one after, yarn over and through, and take it through all 4. So it's going to be a really big pull in, but you'll notice the effect of this quite quickly. You see already how well it's bringing that in, but if you're wanting that big dramatic balloon effect, this is ideal for that. So if you carry on that all the way around, so once you've gone all the way around, if you can see there, that is a really big pull in, so that's a proper balloon cuff there. Now bear in mind, obviously this part does need to be able to fit over your wrist, so please try it on. This might be a little bit small, but it's great for this purpose because it'll help me do the next bit a little bit quicker to show you. And that does actually fit my arm, so that's okay. But if you find that it's too tight, don't do the row before where we just did alternate decreasing. Just do this 3 together row, or you can play around with your decreases. Just make sure that this is going to fit. And also one last tip is to make sure you've got an even number of stitches going round. So what I've done is I've done that 3 together all the way around, and then I've just done a 1 round of going into each stitch 1 time with a double crochet. That way, if you did need to change it, so say you had an odd number, I'd just do a final 2 together just to even it out. But that's how that's looking. Now, when it comes to the next part for your cuff, there's a couple of different versions of cuffs that you can do. So some people do a rib cuff and they simply do it separately and then they attach it and they sew it on. I'm not a big fan of this because I prefer to crochet whenever I can. If you've been following me, you'll know I don't like sewing too much. So there's a couple of different routes we can do. So there's one where we do a chain and we build out and build the rib from that. Or there's another where we do posts and we're going to back and front posts going round. So I'm going to show you a little example of both and then you can choose what you prefer. So if you want to do let's start with the chain one, because then we can work to the end and it gives me the other side. So if you want to work out how long you'd like your cuff, so let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So I'm just going to do a short cuff just for the purpose of being able to show you on here. And then so you do your chain, you're going to miss your first chain and go into your second one down, and you're going to do double crochets all the way back to the start. So in this case I'm doing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and that will be your 10th because I did 11 chains. So 10. When you get back to the start, this is where we've started it into this stitch here. I'm going to slip stitch into the one above, like so, and slip stitch one more. This second slip stitch acts as your turning chain. So you're going to use that, and then we are going to attempt to turn it. It's quite big now, so just bear with me. I'm going to just twist it around, like so. Your yarn will need to be repositioned to go to the back. And then, hopefully it's not getting too messy for you to see. So that's the chain I'm working on. Yarn at the back, and we're now going to do, oops, looking at those V's on the top. We know you've got 10. We did the 2 slip stitches, and we're going to go into that first stitch, and we're going to go, instead of going into the V like we would do normally, we're going to go into the back loop, and we're going to carry on and do these double crochets. So just pull that a bit tighter. So again, it's into these back loops. Like so. When you get to your last one, go into it as normal, and then you're going to do your chain 1 to turn, and then turning it back over, yarn again at the back, and then we're going to repeat that. And so we're going to tip it, obviously missing your chain out, and going into that back loop, we're then going to do our double crochets. Oops, into there. Into that last one there, which seems to be hiding. There we go. Into there. As I say, that's where we started in that one. So we're going to go into here, slip stitch again, one up, oops, and turn, and then going back into there. So I'll do one more, and then hopefully you can see that effect. It's not quite as tricky to hold it as I'm making it here, but it's just trying to keep you on the camera. So again, working your way up. There we go, into the last one, that chain one, to turn it back. You can see this nice rib effect coming along there. So I personally quite like this one. Yep, and then back again. So the only catch with this one is you need to know how long you want your cuff to start with. And make sure you're happy with that, because obviously this is just the length it's going to stay. The next method I'm going to show you can actually make that you decide as you go. You can just keep going until it's long enough. So that's us back to the beginning. That's where we started. Slip stitch in and into the next one, like so. So that, hopefully, if I can sit it down, shows you how that's going to be. You might want a bigger cuff with it being quite a big balloon cuff, so you might want your sleeve. You might want this to be wider, but that's just to show you what it can look like. And then you're going to do that all the way around, and then just join it onto here. You can either slip stitch or double crochet into the last one, just to finish that off, or even sew it together if you prefer. That's totally up to you, but you can imagine that going all the way around and gives you that nice pretty cuff edge. Now I did say I'll show you a different method, so if I hold it up here, I'm going to show you one which use as trebles and front posts and back posts. So it's quite a similar method. So what we're going to do, so ignoring this bit, because obviously we wouldn't have that on there. So if we were starting here, we'd be doing some trebles. So we'd actually do a chain of 3 for the height, and then you treble into each one of these stitches that we've done. So I'm just going to do a few of them. So the only thing you need to remember is you wouldn't be turning it. I'm going to be turning it so that I can demo this. You won't do the turn, but you do your trebles all the way around. Oh, and one thing I should have mentioned this earlier is if you want to get a tighter cuff, go down a hook size. The hook cuffs always look a bit nicer if you've gone into a smaller hook size, so either half a size or a full size, just to bring that cuff in, especially on the previous method. Okay, so I've got a few trebles there, so it's just enough to show you what this is going to look like. So you're going to do it continuously going round. So once you've got back all the way around to the chain, you're going to slip stitch and join, do your chain 3 to get the height. So I'm at the end, so we'd still do the chain 3 to get the height, so that bit's the same. You don't turn it, so I'm turning it, but you won't need to because you're going to go in a continuous circle. I'm wondering if, no, it'd be too small. So I'm going to go in, you'll be going in a continuous circle, but all you're going to do is front post and back post. So that's your next post, yarn over and go in between the posts, yarn over and through, yarn over through 2 and through 2. So it's still a treble, but it's going around a post. The next one you're going to do as a back post. So you're going from the other side and bringing it round. And you're just going to alternate between front posts and back posts. So that's that one. And that one. So if anybody's done things like waffle stitch or basket weave, you'll be very familiar with these. And then once you get all the way around again, you're just going to do that slip stitch. It's slightly different for me. So if you got to there, you're going to do your treble into the top one for me. When you get all the way around, you'll be slip stitching it. So, because you'd have got all the way back round and you'd be here, and then you slip stitch to there, and then carry on going round. As I said, you don't turn it, but you'd still need to do the 3 chains, and then you'd continue on to your next one, and they should follow on. So here, this was a back post. Yes. So we're going to do another one, and then this one with it being raised is a front post. And so you continually alternating between them. And then again, you'd be doing your slip stitch to turn it, and going back, and then just copying, carrying on with your pattern. So I'll show you what this looks like after this row. So as I said, because you can just keep going, you can make this as long as you want it to be. So whatever you're happy with. So if I just turn that over now for you to see. So ignore the other version. So there you can see you've also got this rib effect going on here, and it also gathers it in a little bit. And if you've gone down a hook size, it'll do so a little bit more as well. So bear that in mind for your final cuff size, because you want, obviously, if that's gathering it in, you still need it to be able to fit. So that's quite a common technique as well for doing your cuffs. There's lots of different ways, as I say, but those are the 2 that I wanted to show you today. And you could just keep going with this as long as you wanted to do. Now, that was all showing you how to put a cuff on your balloon sleeving, which I think looks really, really good, and they're really good when they're finished. But obviously, if you wanted to taper your sleeves and make them longer, so you could still do the same thing if you made a longer sleeve and still do the same cuff at the end, so still a long balloon, that's fine. But let me see if I can turn this around to show you the other side. But so you can also, if you can see that, I don't know how well you can see on there, but hopefully I've also tapered this one in. So I went round to make it longer, but then I've also done some decreasing. So I'll just quickly show you at this end how I did that. Just in case that's what you want to do. So if I just quickly show you here. So obviously originally I attached it to the end of the sleeve, and I've just gone round and round doing the same pattern with the clusters. Here, so if you imagine that's where I'm at, and then I'll show you how I've done the decrease. So when I've done this was the end of a round, just as before. We've got to the, oops, I've pulled too many out now. Got to the end of the round, and I've still done the same method of slip stitching into the top chain, and into the following trebles across and into the space. And then for your normal rounds, you're still going to do your first one being a chain of 3, 1, 2, 3, with 2 trebles. 1, 2, and then for each gap you're going to do your 3 trebles going away all the way around, just as normal. If you want to do a decrease, what I'd recommend is laying your sleeve down flat, and where you've got your seam across here, I would lay it flat with the seam at the top. Now I've done this by eye because I want to go round and round. Some people keep it flat and unseamed and work it back and forth in rows and then fold it together, which means they can do a decrease in the middle of their row and at the ends before they sew it. I didn't want to do that, so I've gone round and round like I've just said. So that's the end of the seam. So laying it flat, I'm following that seam going down, and that's roughly where my decreases are going to go. And then I've gone for the bottom part, and I've done the same here. I've guessed roughly where I want that decrease to go, so that every time I lay it flat, they're at the top and at the bottom. Now, there's one of my decreases. I can see them if I point them out, but normally I wouldn't think they're too obvious. Now, again, there's a few different techniques for doing decreases. The one that I quite like is this one. So we've got 2 clusters. I'm going to go into my next one, my next gap, as normal with a treble. And then I'm going to do the first part of the treble. So I'm yarn over and in, yarn over through. That's my 3 loops. I'm going to do yarn over through 2 of them, yarn over again, and then I'm going to go into the next gap, do yarn over and through, yarn over through 2 of them. So I've got 3 loops on now, and I'm going to do yarn over through all 3. So that's a treble, treble 2 together. So that's brought those into as one. That's my first one, and then I'm going to do another treble in there. So I've got a treble in each one, and then I've got the treble 2 together across them. So I've still got there the 3 stitches, and then I'm just going to carry on as normal. And as I say, the way I've done it is you can put a stitch marker in for your top and bottom seam, and then I've just roughly put it around the top and bottom seam. So if I do that, I don't know how well you can see, but there's one of my decreases there and there. So they're not perfectly lined up because they're going to move a little bit, but just to give you an idea. Now, because I want to make it a tapered edge, don't do it every row, otherwise it's going to come in really quick. If you want a really quick one, as I say, we've done the balloon method. I've done 3 rows between each one. Now, it depends how long you need your sleeve to be. I'm quite tall, so I've got quite long arms, so that works for me. You can do less decreases, more decreases. It's entirely up to you how you want your finished effect to be. This is still quite a big bringing it in. I think mine was a little bit too wide to start, but that's, again, it's personal preference and how you'd like it. But that's how I would do my decreasing and then tapering it in. And I've got it to this size. So this is still plenty big enough, and it gives me a little bit of give to now be putting my cuff on. So for me on this one to do my cuff, the original method I showed you on the balloon, where I did 1 and a decrease, 1 and a decrease, is what I'm going to use here before I then attach my cuff. And I will be doing the chain method, I think, for that one. But yeah, let me see how you get on with yours. I'd love to see the different ones, and I'll send you some pictures of them when they're finished. I'll pop some on maybe at the end of this video. I'll try and attach them to it. And then I think that's the majority of the granny cardie finished. The only thing would be, well, the granny, I said the hexie. The only thing would be to mention is if you want to do a final border around your front. So this is the front of my Hexicardie. So now that it's all seamed and I've got the length that I want here, I'm then going to go all the way around, so all the way up the front, up both sides. So I'll be going, let's see if I can move the camera a little. So I'm going to be going all the way up the front and across the back and down the other front. Oops, that's the sleeve. And down at the other front and round the bottom. And I'm going to do that a couple of times just to bring this front in and make that big enough. Once that's done, I'm not sure, I might do a double crochet edge to it, just to give it a thicker, a bit more of a solid border. So I might just, instead of doing the clusters, I might just do solid stitches all the way. I'll show you some of the pictures when I get that far. Anybody wanting to put a hood on, you can actually attach across here. You possibly need to have left your seams a little bit wider, and then you go up here with a straight panel and you can simply fold it in half and sew together for your hood. But I'll do that in another video, I think. But yeah, that gives you the overall finish off for your Hexicardie. If I've missed anything, let me know, and I'm sure that I'll be putting some more videos on to finish any bits off. Thank you.